It's a practice that horrifies the majority of Brits. I'm talking about trophy hunting. Whether it's by poachers or tourists paying to shoot, the end result often shocks and appalls. We've all seen the photos of someone proudly posing alongside their kill. Well, now MPs here want to try to change things. They're preparing to debate a proposed ban on UK safari hunters bringing body parts of animals they shoot, like tusks, back home. Polling in recent years suggests more than 80% of people here back a ban. And yet the move by MPs here is shocking politicians where those wildest of animals roam. Tonight, the President of Botswana tries to justify why elephants must be killed. He says it's about protecting the safety of his own people. And for the UK to suggest otherwise isn't just condescending, but also brings back memories of colonialism. Here's President Masisi telling me why he thinks Britain shouldn't judge Botswana.
I wish they would be as horrified when elephants maul and maraud people. I find it unfathomable that you'd be horrified by the protection of one's livelihood, rural poor people who have allowed 40% of the country to be set aside for conservation when they defend themselves, or even when, out of a lack of resources, they invite those who are well enough to own arms and hunt for trophies in a controlled, selective manner. Nothing to come close to diminishing the population, because despite the 400 elephants per year quota we are allowed by CITES, we have never come close to that.
Well,
so why aren't they horrified?
Well, again, critics say that you are not looking at the bigger picture here, that you are not thinking about the survival of this species, which is crucial to the ecosystem, the wider ecology, because elephants are seen as gardeners of the forest.
Yes, and we happen to be the ones who have kept those animals surviving. And those who are supposed to be the paragons of virtue of our gardening entitlements have none. We have the most elephants in the world in the wild. How did that come about? Now, who has greater legitimacy to proclaim capacity to play ruler or decision maker to these species? And listen to me, I mean, it is amazing that when people have in their own backyards allowed for the hunting of species and exportation of trophies, they would turn around and look at ours and say, we couldn't. We have the most elephants.
The former president of Botswana has described the practice as unethical and says that basically this has got to do with corruption right at the top.
The former president is a man on the run from corruption. Why doesn't he come here to a country he led? He knows the judicial system, he knows the processes, and defend himself. I did not accuse him. I did not investigate him. The rule of law is well entrenched and established in this republic. And he cannot be the one saying that when he knows more than anybody else that he peddled a lot of dubious things, and most of all now, untruths.
President, I also want your reaction to politicians from Botswana reportedly threatening to send 10,000 wild elephants to Hyde Park here in London.
I thought I could, credit you with a lot more humor, because my Minister of Environment, Honorable Dumize Mkulu, made that statement in jest, and he did say it was a rhetorical statement when he said 10,000 elephants released in Hyde Park. Everybody knows you're not going to be lifting 10,000 elephants to bring there. But what he was trying to
tell us what the point he was trying to make.
The point is, because we live with these elephants as we eke out our living, and you want them not controlled, you must experience the same. Put another way, come over and visit come and live with them. Come and live with us. All our critics, even the mover of this bill, I bet you has never set foot in Botswana to fully understand how we live and cherish our elephants.
Why do you think?
And he must thank us.
Why do you think this bill has been put forward and is up for debate?
To be honest with you, I honestly think it's condescending. I think it's really condescending. I think there has been an upsurge and a peddling of untruths about how we truly treat our elephants. A peddling of untruths of how we interact with elephants to have resulted in them being what they are, and a negation of communication about how elephants do harm to the ecosystem, how much elephants do harm to human beings who are poor, who try and eke out a living in rural, dry Botswana.
What do you think you need to do in order to clarify what you're saying are misunderstandings of the issues that you have in Botswana in terms of these elephants?
First of all, it's just basic biology and population dynamics. If a species or even a production line in a factory is unmanaged in its reproduction, they will get to a time where there's oversupply, and therefore there will be a shortage of the resources necessary for its own survival, right? Two is that they will occupy far greater land in mass than they would if they were limited in number. Three, elephants are large, iconic, and can be very dangerous species. And if you looked at the way in which they, when come into conflict with human beings, who suffers and how they suffer, you'd never wish it upon your worst enemy.
So are you saying that hunting is essentially a form of culling? Well,
listen, culling has a connotation of ethical abhorrence associated with it, because it is the indiscriminate elimination of a whole group, mother, father, grandfather, the whole herd. It's not the same with hunting. It's just a lexical difference. But the end, in terms of the result,
is more or less, is it the same?
The end of a shoot is a death. But the difference between culling and shooting or hunting is that you pick which you hunt.
So
I
just want to get your reaction then. Say this debate, it's a proposed ban. If this ban does go through, your reaction to that?
I'd be abhorred, disappointed, and disturbed by, the rejuvenation of what I perceive as not just condescending and patronizing, but really a resurgence of colonial conquest. It amounts to that. We're a democratic sovereign republic, right? You have stags. Whenever did you have us passing a bill on the importation of stags? Only because we are poor? Only because we don't have rich people who can go out there, hunt them, bring them here? Only because our economy is so much smaller than yours?
President, I also just want to ask you, when you see very wealthy people who can afford to go out and hunt, travel to your country, and then take pictures with these dead animals, how do you feel about that?
Well, listen, I'm not the one to moralize about the posing of those persons. And yet again, that presents an opportunity for controlling that too, because some of them can be really ugly, but yet there are some which can be decent, right? And without blood all over the place. And
well, those are the images that are being seen and are horrifying people.
Well, I don't know how old those images are, because things change over time, right? But yet again, I must point out that what we have is controlled hunting. Juxtapose this against the proposition of those who are opposed to what we do. They are proposing photographic tourism. There are some places where photographic tourism just is not viable. But besides that, They never want to see the effects of only photographic tourism, where you have in the background a malnourished, emaciated child with a picture taken from an elephant or buffalo, which just ravaged a village, which ravaged a field, which killed a grandmother trying to herd her goats. You don't get that communicated by the very same people. So you get this paradoxical image where you get opulence and ostentatiousness by the rich, opulent, photographic tourists, some of them, I must say, and the poverty, abject, that's right in surrounding that. That's brought about by unwanted, controlled numbers of species.
President Masisi, we're very grateful for your time. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, but you must come to Botswana and we'll take you on a tour. You see these things.
That was the President of Botswana there. Well, with me this evening in the studio to discuss all of our issues is the Deputy Editor of The Spectator, Freddy Gray, and Michael Walker, political commentator at Navara Media. Thank you both for joining us here on the programme. Freddie, I'll come to you first. Just your reaction to some of the things the President was saying.
Well, I think it's tremendously refreshing to hear a different perspective on trophy hunting, because I think most of our debate on it is now formed by people posting disgusting images on social media of a trophy hunted, of a hunted animal looking brutalised with some sort of hillbilly with a gun, and sort of proclaiming their disgust at what they're seeing. And that's very easy to share because it's very emotive. But this is a complicated issue, and I think President Masisi made it very clear there that from Botswana's point of view, it's quite important to control the population of elephants. This is an economically lucrative way for them to do it. And if you want to talk about sort of remnants of imperialism, what could be more imperialistic than lecturing Botswanans about how to run something that's rather important in their country, and is, you know, farming is very important in Botswana. They need to manage the population. And so I think, you know, without wanting to sort of sounds silly, I think, well, congratulations to you for presenting the other side of the argument, because it's very, very unpopular in this country.
Deeply unpopular. In fact, if you look at the polls, more than 80% of people are saying that they support a trophy hunting ban.
Which is proof you've got a very unrepresentative panel, because unfortunately, I also think the President of Botswana put the case very well. Personally, when it comes to animal rights, I feel like I don't have a leg to stand on as a meat eater. You know, you hear lots of people say, oh, I can't believe someone would shoot an elephant, that's so outrageous, when they ate pulled pork for lunch, right? Pigs are also very intelligent. So I think there's a sort of, people can be a bit squeamish about it, and I can't really see where the moral consistency is. I think at the same time, so I think many people have, and I have to admit myself before I was reading about this today, sort of assumed that maybe elephants were somewhat endangered. There are 130,000 in Botswana. There used to be 50,000. The president there was sort of saying that this does cause disruption. As you can imagine, you know, it's a large country, but 130,000 elephants running around, that is going to be disruptive. So to me, it seems like a pretty smart solution to say we can control the elephant population, we can make some decent money from foreign tourists, and to be fair to Botswana, it is one of the countries in Africa that's had the most sort of steady, stable growth, one of the best places to grow up in, really, in sub-Saharan Africa. So I think, you know, we should be a bit more humble here, potentially.
Yes, but if I go back to the polling that's been done, the fact that the majority of Brits view it in a certain way, they probably welcome MPs debating this ban. I just want to show an image, and I'm just going to warn our audience because it is graphic and it will upset people, of Cecil the lion. This image is from 2015, following a kill. And this image did horrify the world. And it is these sorts of things, Freddie, that does upset people.
Well, again, I think this is why we're a very visual culture, particularly in the West. Social media has driven that. And images like that are upsetting. But hunting of big game is a more complicated subject than just, you know, a horrific killing of a lion. I mean, lions are endangered in some countries and should be preserved, because I think that's where, you know, the moral argument becomes quite clear. If an animal is in danger of being extinct and you are hunting it, then yes, there's a very good case for not doing it. There's a separate question about whether people should take pleasure in killing animals. That's a difficult moral question to answer, and I don't really claim to have a clear answer on that, I'm afraid. Maybe Michael, though.
Well, I think, as I say, when it comes to the morality, people somehow seem to think that sort of if you eat it, it's moral, and if you do it for pleasure, it's not. Now, people can survive on a vegetarian and vegan diet, so they really are eating meat for sort of pleasure anyway. That said, I mean, obviously I find killing a lion or killing an elephant and posing with it distasteful. You know, I don't see a picture of someone posing with a dead large animal and thinking, oh, they seem like a fabulous guy and I'd like to hang out with them. You know, so there's something unseemly about it, but I don't necessarily think we can make moral judgments just based on our personal tastes.